Everybody, it's 7:30, just coming up to 7:30 on Saturday night here in Les Abdelone. It's still bright sunshine outside, and I was going to write an entrant update about Jeremy and this storm that he's got coming over the top of him right now. And I thought I'd do a quick live and just show you what's going on with Windy TY and exactly what this system is. This is the hang on, I've got to get onto it here. This is what this storm looks like virtually now, and it's quite intense. I mean, if you look at, this is on gusts at the moment, but you're looking at the gusts 80, 90 knots, some of this stuff here. So it's quite, it's intensified, but the good news is it's changing shape. Okay, so as it moves forward, it's going to open up a bit because, we saw listening, oh, jeepers, what's going to go? But the forecast is suggesting it will open up and break up. So now, two things. That's the gust forecast. This is the wind forecast for what's going on. Generally, 40, 50 knots, 50, 60 knots and so on down in here. And so what I'm going to do now is try and just find Jeremy's position. I just got to locate that. It's 32, 36 south. So as I move this down, it'll be too fine for you to see because it's very fine print here, but I can read it. So I'm just going to put this on his approximate position now. 32, 36, where are we? 32, 36, about there. And then he's on 34, 35. So 34, hang on a sec, 34, 35, 34. This is right over here somewhere, 34, and it's 33, 32. So I'm coming up a bit. This takes a bit of geolocation here. Coming right up, 32, 36, 32, 35, okay, 34, 35. Now he's going to be a little bit further north. That's about where his position is right now. And this is, okay, catch up. That's where he is. I can't give you the distances, but I can tell you roughly anyway, it's a timeline thing. I'm not worried, but that's 35 south, and that's, I can't quite read it there. Anyway, I can't tell you the actual distances, but the bottom line is we're on the time situation. So that's Jeremy's position off the tracker at 4 o'clock this afternoon. And then I've allocated a little bit further to the northeast, which is where he's still sailing. So by the time this is rolling over, this is what you're going to get. And this is on the wind strengths at the moment, not the gusts. So you'll see what's going to happen as it comes across. It's going to interact with him in a couple of hours, about 3 or 4 hours. And you can see now straight away, it's all started to mash up and open up and break up, which is really encouraging. It's potentially a lot less wind. Even in those that's about 6 hours. The next 6 hours as it approaches him, it's going to open. So it's not looking as bad as it was, but it's still pretty intense. And this is forecast wind, and forecast wind, you know the gusts are going to be at least 30% higher. So where it says 31 knots, I think you can see that, 33 knots, 35 knots, you're going 45s into the 50s and so on. But fortunately, the strength is backing off. Now, if we look at the waves here at the moment, the sea is going to still increase because you've got 5.8 meter seas there already. And this is the big stuff. This will be around 8 meters or something probably. So I'll walk that through in a minute, but we'll just go for the basic wind at the right now, 35s. So it's maintaining a forecast wind strength of, around 35 knots for about 12 hours. And then the good news, again, it's pulling away to the southeast and forming up. So it's going to go over him, within 24 hours. But he's still got a pretty intense period in the middle. Now, just to re-walk you through that, and I'll do it on gust this time, you can see this is intense. This is around 60, 70 knots in there. So wind gusts as it's approaching is 34 knots. And then it's quickly, jumping up in the blues here. And even though the forecast wind, you saw all those patches and open areas, this is the peak gusts, right? It doesn't mean it's going to be blowing all of this wind speed all of the time. It'll be puffing up and down. So it might come in for 5 minutes blowing at 50 knots, and then it'll back to 35 knots and so on. So the gusts are exactly what they say. Everyone knows what a gust is. So that's it, rather than constant wind. But it's still 50 knots there. A little bit softer than what was projected yesterday. We were thinking 55 knots, maybe gusting 60 knots. But there's quite a period there where it's 50 knots. But again, you can clearly see the center of this low, as soon as it gets towards him, it's heading off rapidly to the southeast, which is really a good thing, because he tried to get north as quick as he could, but it wasn't happening. You can see it's literally going down very fast, but the gusts are still up around 47 and dropping off to 43 and so on. So that'll be by pretty much late afternoon tomorrow. So he's going to have some tricky stuff. The wind direction is another thing, because you can see here the winds, these are gusts, but I'll go back to wind strength, and that will tell you the direction. But if I hit wind there, wrong one. If I hit wind, jeepers, we just lost his position. You can see I didn't have a position. It was about here. Come on. No, I've lost it there anyway. There we go, 25 knots. It's southwest, so it's gone southwest, but right back here, it was northwest. So it swung through northwest to southwest about 90 degrees. We don't want that, and we'll go for waves, and we'll see his position was around about here. Period of 8 seconds between the waves, 32, 36. You want 32, 33, and 34.50. That's probably about him there. So it started off at quite low, and I'm just going to walk this through now. And you can see these white areas over to the left as building rapidly, 3.8 knots. It gives you the wind, the swell direction there, rather, which is westerly. So it's coming from the west at 4.5 meters, building rapidly, and there's a period of 8 seconds. That means every 8 seconds, there's another swell coming through, which is pretty quick. And the shorter distance between the swells, the steeper they are, all right? 8 seconds, stretching out a bit, 9 seconds, but look how it builds up really fast. And it's still a westerly swell. That's a good thing. 6 meters. This is every hour, like it's going up quite fast every hour. And it's opening up to 11-second period, so that's not too bad. 6.9. Remember, this is forecast swell height. They could go quite a bit higher than that. It's still holding from the west. That's kind of nice. Okay, still holding from the west. That's a good thing. It's just gone southwest. So just at the end, still 6.8, it changed southwest. The previous forecast yesterday was showing a swing really rapidly, and over 14 hours, it went through, a huge difference. Went through, instead of being 90 degrees, it was going through 130 degrees and so on, but this is a bit less, and holding 11-second sequence, starting to drop out a bit, but holding through. This is through until Monday, so that's really 36 hours ahead of now. So you still got a big C there. And I'll go into a secondary swell. Okay, so see, come on, jeepers. This, okay, we'll just see what the secondary swell. That's the third swell. Jeepers, this is this program. So this is the secondary swell, and he was about here, 32. 36, 32, 36. Let's say about there, a little bit further to the west. That'll do. That'll do. So I'm losing it. 32. I just pull it down a bit. Sorry about all this. Okay, so this is the tricky bit. This is where it gets really tricky, and this is what I wanted to ultimately show you. At the same time that Jeremy is getting the westerly swell of about an 8 to 10 second period and the primary swell rather is around 5 meters and growing, right? There is a secondary swell of 4.4 meters from the south, running at exactly 90 degrees than the primary swell. So you've got 5 meter swells this way, 6 meter swells, 7 meter swells, 8 meter swells. And right there now, there's a 4.4 meter swell coming from the south at 12 seconds. Now, the significance of that is that when they cross over each other, as it loops across, you get on that crossover point, you get a huge heap up of the swell. So if you got a 7 meter swell from the west and a 4 meter swell from the south, you can potentially get 12 meters breaking right at that point. And it's sort of a bit like the luck of the draw. And we've got to hope that Jeremy doesn't end up at one of those points as it's sequencing across. This is quite a way into it. It builds up. So here it comes here. This is the secondary swell. This is tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock in the morning. As it's coming over the top, you can see this is the center of the high, and you knew at that point he's got big winds and bits and pieces. It's very iffy, with really confusing. This is a southeasterly swell at 1.9 knots. There's some really strange things going on here, and this is the secondary swell. It's not the so this is the main second swell rather than the third one, because sometimes you get the third one, but I don't think this is the third swell, and it's minor, but it's still there. So there's a three-wave action. It's very confused here, and this is partly because in the Southern Ocean, where you get these long swells coming in all the way through, it doesn't happen here because you've got a big land mass there. So all of these swells coming from different directions are actually being generated by the pressure systems that are around the place. And it's not much fun. So that was in 30 knots forecast. Wind gusts of 40 high 40s, nearly into 50, and predominant swell and wave 6 meters, and secondary swell of 1.9 from the southeast. That's building and growing in strange ways. Okay, so there's a northerly there, northeasterly, 2.6 meters. There's some strange stuff going on there. So anyway, we'll all be thinking of Jeremy tonight, and we'll spare him a thought. This is going to last for probably about the tough time is going to start in about 4 hours, I suppose, 4 or 5 hours, and then he'll be into that for at least probably 18 hours. So good luck, Jeremy, and we'll look forward to seeing you all again later on.